Welcome to the It's Time podcast with your host, Professor Dale Feinhauer, from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh College of Business Graduate Programs.
Welcome to another It's Time podcast, an offering of the UW-Oshkosh College of Business Graduate Programs. I'm your host, Dale Feinhauer. Once again, we are here at A.J. Armstrong Studios to help throw a little more fuel on the flame of your desire to enhance your business management skills. Today, as throughout our first series, we're focused on leadership. But today, it's another Dale podcast. This is another you get to listen to me. Notice I said get to. But the focus today is a little bit different. It's a focus on how do you take care of yourself. It's a you-focused podcast. And you may ask the question, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to be learning about leadership. Why am I focused on me? Well, the argument is that you can't be good at being a leader unless you've first taken care of yourself. Many of you are aware of this concept. Many of you have jobs that put a lot of stress on you. And you've recognized that if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't be there to take care of others. It's sort of an extension of the Disney concept, where Disney is very focused on the people in the amusement park who are interacting with their guests. They want those folks to be in a good place. So they work hard to make sure the people working in the amusement park are feeling good or positive, that they're in a good place so that they can help the guests have a positive experience. Same kind of concept here. If you as a leader are not taking care of yourself, you can't bring your A game to the leadership challenges that you have every day. So it's really important that you take care of yourself. And we want to think about a number of aspects of taking care of yourself. One is avoiding excessive stress. It's really easy in the kind of jobs that many of us have to get overly stressed with all kinds of details. There's always something to worry about that at the moment may seem very, very important. It's important to be able to put things in context. I'm a fan of the book. It's a number of years ago. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all the small stuff, that kind of a concept. I think we get too wrapped up in details, worried about things that really aren't worth worrying about. I like the expression, don't worry about it. In the end result, we're all dead. Now, some may view that as a relatively negative way to view the world. We're all dead. But first of all, let me note, and you can debate this with me, but you will lose, that it's true. In the end result, I and everyone listening to this podcast will be dead. That is a fairly non-debatable proposition. Okay, why does this matter? Well, what is important? What matters in the end result? And prioritizing and thinking about yourself is critical in this process. I think it's important to think through, what do you want out of life? You should identify, what is your mission? We always talk about organizational mission. What's the purpose of the organization? Mission, vision, making sure we have a shared, clear vision. We align our resources around that vision. We execute around that vision. We do that at the organizational level. Clearly contending here, folks, if that makes sense for you in your leadership roles within the organization, doesn't it make sense for you in your role as the leader of you? I think this is critically important. You need to start with two things. One, recognizing the end result, you are going to be dead. I keep an app on my phone that counts down the number of days I have left. I have about 12,000 days left. Now, this assumes I live to be 100, which may be a bit of a stretch. But when I ran my countdown clock with 80, my wife was not pleased with how many days I had left, so I upped it to 100 to make her happy. Happy spouses are important in life. And I have a 91-year-old mother who's in great shape, so maybe I'm not overstressing here. But the critical point here is that you recognize your own mortality. You are going to die. You only have so many days left. I'm very enamored of the Robert Frost line. Time is the coin of your life. Be careful lest you let somebody else spend it for you. Don't let yourself get wrapped up in the stresses of work, of the details of work, when that's not what's really important to you. But this raises the second point. you need to know what is really important to you. And many of us can fairly quickly say, well, family's important to me, community's important to me. But I think you need to refine it, just as you shouldn't just rattle off, well, making profit is important as a mission for the organization. You need to be more thoughtful about the organizational mission. You need to be more thoughtful about what's your mission. From my perspective, you get 3. You don't get to have 10 things that you're trying to do in life. You get 3. There are 3 things that you can focus on saying, this is how I will judge in the end result whether I lived my life well. I have 3. I will share my 3, not from the perspective that these are right, but it kind of gives you a concept of the scope that I think makes sense. So I have 3 things that I'm trying to do in my life, in no order of priority here. 1, I want my family to be better. I want my family to have a higher quality of life because I am in their lives. I want my children, I want their spouses, I want my grandchildren to have a better life because I have been in their life. That is one of my objectives in life. Secondly, I want the world to be a better place because I've been in it. Now, I'm not going to cure cancer. I'm not going to end childhood hunger. I'm not going to have some tremendous impact that changes the world. I'm realistic. But hopefully at the margin, I will have impacted some people's lives. I will have helped some people with perspective in their lives. I will have helped some students. I will have lived on some land that I helped manage and have done it in a way that's better for the environment. Whatever's important to you, however you manage. But for me, one of the things that I try to manage, am I making the world a better place? And for me, 3, and this may sound relatively self-centered, I want to enjoy life. I don't know exactly what all happens after life, but I want to have enjoyed this life. I want to have lived this life in a way that I can be proud of, but that I've enjoyed. I've done things that were satisfying to me. So those are my 3. Not saying in any way that those are the right 3 for anybody else, but I do think it's important that you take a deep breath and say, these are the things that are important to me. I would suggest 3. That helps reduce stress. Is this directly impacting one of those 3? If the answer is no, well, then maybe you don't worry about that detail. And now, a few words about some of the programs and services offered by the UW-Oshkosh College of Business.
The University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh offers the first of its kind MBA executive program in Northeast Wisconsin. Cohorts meet on weekends at the Appleton Executive Education Center with options available in a 12 or 16-month timeline. The results-driven MBA executive program provides an education that is both relevant and actionable, so you can take the knowledge you learn on Saturday and immediately apply it at work on Monday. No GRE or GMAT required. See if the MBA executive program is right for you by visiting uwo.sh/EMBA. That's uwo.sh/EMBA. It's time to achieve more with a graduate degree from UW-Oshkosh.
Also a big fan of the 80-20 rule. Many of us who move into the management ranks, move into leadership ranks, want to get it right. We want to do it exactly right. We want to make it as good as we possibly can. And we worry about the details. And one of the ways you end up moving into leadership ranks is you're very good at your base job before you are in a leadership role, when you're leading yourself, if you will. And you're very good at making sure you do things very well. You excel. That's why you get promoted to leadership. You're very good in those roles, so you get promoted. You manage the details. You make it happen. However, there are so many details. And I do believe in that 80-20 rule. Often it takes 20% of your time to get something 80% right. And it takes another 80% of the time to get that final 20%. Now, in some cases, getting the final 20% is critically important. If I've got a surgeon working on me, I want them to get it all right. I don't want them to get most of their stitches right. Most of the bleeders were tied off. If we're talking to the airline mechanic who's checking over the engine before I get on the plane, I want them to get it totally right. I don't want them to do 80% of the checklist. There certainly are jobs and aspects of life where you want to get it perfect. Perception, though, is that in many cases, our ego and our history drives us to try and get it perfect when we are really much more productive to get it 80% right, move on to the next, get it 80% right, because the last 20% doesn't matter. So take a deep breath. How important is it? Prioritize. What's important to you? What do I really want to get done today? So from a work perspective, I show up for work. You've got a to-do list, but prioritize that to-do list. Don't view it as I have to do all of this. You're going to do some. You're not going to do all of it often because life happens. Things occur at work. What are the 3 things you really want to get done today, or the 2 or the 5, whatever the number is? This is the stuff I need to get done. This is what I'm going to focus on. Don't allow yourself to be distracted. Many of us get very distracted by email. I'm off, I'm working, I'm generating a document, I'm doing something I need to do at work. Ding, an email comes in. Oh, let me go check the email. No. In most of our jobs, you can check email once an hour and it will be just fine. So, work, get stuff done, focus on it, have that as a focus, then go check your email once an hour, that kind of thing. Resolve well and persevere. Many of us spend way too much time worrying about an issue that we've already come to the conclusion on. We've already decided, I think this is the best way to handle it. This is what I'm going to do in the face of this challenge. Okay, collect all the data you can, analyze it, talk to people, think it through, have people challenge your answer. But once you've concluded that I think the best course of action is to do X, resolve well, and then persevere. I'm going to do X. You may have a stopping point 6 months, 6 hours, 6 days from now where you're going to take a deep breath and say, okay, is this answer working? But for now, I'm doing it. I'm not second guessing this question. I'm moving ahead, making this thing happen. Unplug from work. Hugely convinced that you are more productive at work over the course of an 8-10-hour day, whatever you're putting in, if you take breaks. And I'll think about these breaks in a number of ways. One, from a health perspective, we know that sitting for an hour is a bad idea. Sitting for hours and hours is a bad idea. Fascinating study was done. Many of you have heard of this. And they looked at bus drivers. This was in London, and people who were sitting all day long, but otherwise had very similar health status to somebody who was up and walking around at least once an hour, had very different health outcomes. Extended periods of just sitting are bad. Every 50 minutes, set your watch, set your something, get up, spend 10 minutes walking around. I'm convinced not only is that good for your physical health, you're going to get more done. Taking that 10-minute break, walking around will be very good for you for total productivity during the day. Sleep. I am a huge believer in sleep. I don't think we spend enough time sleeping. There are a number of books out there that talk about sleep and the importance of sleep. But sleep is absolutely critical in terms of your short run and your long run productivity. We know that people learn better after a good night of sleep. We bring people into the lab. They didn't have a good night of sleep before. Another group, they got a full night of sleep. We give them a series of things to memorize, to learn, to etc. And we find that those that had a good night of sleep perform better. Athletes, their reaction time, their endurance, etc., is all enhanced by having had a good night of sleep the night before. We also know, however, that a good night of sleep is important not only the night before so that you learn, but the night after so you consolidate. As you learn things, your experience day to day are held in short-term memory, if you will, before you go to sleep. While you sleep, short-term memory transitions to long-term memory. However, if you don't get a good 7 hours of sleep, you don't get the good deep REM sleep, the phases of sleep where short-term memory transitions to long-term memory, your recollection of what you learned the day before is down. So a good night's sleep before a task, before a learning experience, allows you to learn more. A good night's sleep after allows you to retain that information longer. You need to get a lot of sleep. You need to get a good 7-8 hours of sleep a night If you don't, you will not be able to learn as well. You will not be able to be as productive at work. You will be more irritable at work. It is good for the organization for you to get sufficient sleep. Historically, evolution sense, we slept a lot as a species because it got dark. We are a very visual animal. A lot of what we do, a lot of our brain is chewed up in processing visual experience, visual data. Clearly, once it gets dark, that goes away. So we sleep. We have 8 hours of sleep as a way we have evolved. Sleep is absolutely critical in terms of the short term, being able to function at your highest level. We also know that it's absolutely critical for the long run. First, from a memory perspective, dementia. We know some about dementia, Alzheimer's, one of the forms of dementia that occurs, neurocognitive disability. And we know that part of this is the development of plaque and these amyloid proteins in the brain. We also know that during deep sleep, the brain has an ability to flush these things out of the brain. If you're not getting sufficient sleep, the potential for you to develop dementia is significantly increased. We know that somebody who is in early phases of dementia, if they get a good amount of sleep, it will reduce the impact, the progression, I should say, not the impact, but the progression of the disease. So, I'm not a medical doctor. One of my kids told a friend of his when they were young and they were talking and say, yes, well, technically Dale does have a PhD, so yes, you could refer to him as Dr. Feinhauer. But my son looked at his friend and said, yes, he's a doctor, but he's not the kind that helps people. So I'm not the kind of doctor that helps people. So I'm certainly not providing medical expertise here. Talk to your family physician if you're concerned about the sleep question. But sleep is very important for short-term, long-term health, mental health, the ability to do your job. It also has huge impacts in terms of cancer, heart disease, etc. Fascinatingly, sleeping, taking naps can be very valuable. And I've become a fan of what one sleep researcher refers to as biphasic sleep. So it's a nap. But if you can take half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever works for you, nap, that greatly enhances the quality of memory retention, etc. So I don't think it's a bad thing to take a nap. I have it in my phone every day, 1 o'clock, I have nap scheduled in. I don't always take naps. I won't today because I just doesn't work in the schedule. But it's a little reminder to think about taking a nap. And I regularly do take naps. I think it's good for you. I don't take naps anymore. I engage in biphasic sleep. It sounds much more scientific, much stronger. Another way to make time for you a priority is unplugging from work in terms of vacations, time to regenerate. So finding ways to do the things that energize you. Long periods of time going off, taking a vacation, being away from work. Exercise, absolutely critical to taking care of yourself. Finding a way to schedule that into the day. Make it happen. My 91-year-old mother, almost 92 now, exercises 5 days a week. Well, for one thing, she's obviously retired, so that makes it a little easier. But she exercises at 5:30 in the morning. And she regularly says, look, 5:30 in the morning, I have no other commitments. Now, she's got volunteer work she needs to get doing at 8 o'clock, but nothing else at 5:30. Find a way to schedule yourself, program, make taking care of you a priority. I'm a fan of putting you first so that you can be the best you possible for everyone else. Taking care of yourself. It is a critical aspect of leadership. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to another It's Time podcast.
It's Time is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh College of Business graduate programs in association with Venture Project Studios. Executive producer, Aaron J. Armstrong. Host, Professor Dale Feinhauer. Creative director, Madison Potratz. Director of photography, Elazar Kloon. Audio and video editor, Elazar Kloon. Marketing strategy, Tara Larson. Social media, Anwar Mahana. A special thanks to L Creative, Topview Media, Michael Patton, and the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh College of Business graduate programs.